Oh, hey there! Have you ever had a game or a series that you absolutely love, but for one reason or another, you just can't bring yourself to go back and play it anymore? Like maybe you've gotten too good at the game, so you've optimized the fun out of it. Or perhaps you're just waiting on that sequel that's just never gonna come. Perhaps speedrunning just isn't your thing, and you don't quite like the unofficial feel of ROM hacks. Well then, I'd like to introduce you to the wonderful world of randomizers. So what's the difference between a ROM hack and a randomizer? They're both just altered game files, are they not? Well, yes, but there's more to it than that. A ROM hack typically refers to a specific type of game, where someone has taken the game's files and manually altered them to change the overall experience. Sometimes they might be minor hacks, such as simple translations or tweaking graphics, while keeping the core gameplay the exact same. Quite often though, when people reference ROM hacks, they're referring to radically altered games, going so far as to change the graphics, music, essentially building a brand new game out of the original game's engine. Kaizo Mario is a very popular example of a ROM hack where an individual took Super Mario World and altered it into a series of extremely difficult levels to really test one's abilities with that game. Essentially, Kaizo Mario is the baseline for all those expert and super expert stages you see so often in Super Mario Maker nowadays. The Pokemon franchise are absolutely riddled with ROM hacks, often taking the form of people attempting to make brand new games from them, or in the case of things like Pokemon Crystal Clear, reworking the base game to be an open world, allowing players to start anywhere they want, with a choice of 9 different starters, and gym leaders with a difficulty that scales off of how many gym badges you have. Something that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet should have done, but didn't. When it comes to a ROM hack, everyone is going to get the same experience. We could all go out and play Kaizo Mario, start fresh files, and see the same thwomp try to crush us before we even made it to a level. When a person makes a ROM hack, they are injecting their own personality and creativity into it, which is why ROM hacks have a tendency to look so different too. But when it comes to randomizers, they don't add anything new to the game. Technically speaking anyway. Instead, they shuffle and rearrange assets and formulas that were already present in the game to create a unique seed for you to play and enjoy. Depending on who made the randomizer and the game that's being randomized, there are countless variables that can be changed, and therefore there is a near infinite amount of random seeds that can be generated. As of the date of recording this video, there are quite literally hundreds of randomizers now, entirely too many to cover in one place. But I will do my best to talk about what I feel are some of the most impactful and fun ones that I personally know of. In fact, this topic of randomizers is so big that I called in help from JupiterClimb, a Castlevania world record speedrunner who just so happens to have a deep knowledge of one of my personal favorite randomized series, Castlevania. He's been kind enough to help me, so definitely be sure to check out his YouTube and Twitch streams.
Hey, what's up everybody? The first Castlevania randomizer wasn't actually Symphony of the Night, but instead Super Castlevania 4 back in 2016. This little program, developed by Red Guy, originally randomized Simon's health, enemy health, candle drops, and probably the biggest change, the level and room order. A year later, in 2017, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest also received its own randomizer, this time made by Abyssinem, with the ability to randomize items, monsters, and mansion order.
Now back in 2016 and 2017, these were often overlooked, especially in the streaming space, due to the emergence of what would be my first randomizer, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This randomizer, while originally quite simple, wildly alters your gameplay experience by shuffling every single item in the game. Meaning when you open that first chest in Link's house to get the lantern, you might get something completely different instead, like the Cane of Burna or Zora flippers. It didn't take long for A Link to the Past randomizers to catch on and spread through the Zelda fanbase, eventually leading to randomizers of almost every single Zelda game, both top-down and 3D. But I didn't bring JupiterClimb here to talk about Zelda, so anyway.
The DSvania randomizer was the first randomizer for the Igavania titles. This allowed players to randomize aspects of Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia all in one. However, the breakout moment for Castlevania randomizers was in 2019, thanks to an updated Symphony of the Night randomizer program developed by Wild Mouse. Speedrunning might get more attention, but in many ways randomizers are a more complete test of mastery for a particular game. When picking up a speedrun, players learn one particular route, then practice and refine that route as best they can. Take the any % speedrun for Aria of Sorrow. Because a top time clocks in at around 8 minutes, runners of the category only need to familiarize themselves with a handful of rooms, a few weapons, and a couple of boss fights. Success is defined as executing a narrow route, heavy on glitches, zips, and manipulations.
You see, that's the power of randomizers. They exist to give us endless replayability of games that we might have lost a passion for or burned ourselves out on one way or another. Personally, with as much as I love the Castlevania series, it's genuinely hard for me to go back and play Castlevania Symphony of the Night anymore. Not because it's a bad game, but because I know it too well, and I've essentially optimized the fun out of it for myself. When I do go back and play it, I have to purposefully add limitations to the way I play. Meanwhile, the Symphony of the Night Randomizer has completely reinvigorated my love of this game, and is the closest thing I'll ever get to wiping the memory of it from my brain and playing it fresh. The same can be said with almost every other randomizer I've played. The great thing is, once you've played a game's randomizers enough times, it can make going back and playing the vanilla game just as enjoyable again.
Randomizers really encourage you to branch out and learn parts of a game that normally aren't very relevant. Proficient play in the Aria Randomizer, unlike an Aria speedrun, requires a comprehensive understanding of Soma's arsenal, enemy tolerances and weaknesses, area layouts, item locations, and how to optimize combat with suboptimal builds. Soma's best movement options may not be available early, so learning how to make the most of less common movement tech like forward slides, boosted dive kicks, high jump cancels, or landing cancels can make a significant difference.
The cool thing is, everything JupiterClimb just said is relevant to practically all randomizers, not just Castlevania. As I said earlier, there are hundreds of randomizers nowadays for old and new games. Mario 64, along with numerous other Mario games, the entire Dark Souls series, Mega Man, the Metroid series, Kingdom Hearts, Hollow Knight, Fallout, Final Fantasy, Pokemon, Resident Evil, and countless others. I promise that there is at least one game series you enjoy that you can probably add a randomizer to. In the description, I'll link to a page that highlights the numerous known randomizers, as of this video anyway, for anyone interested in checking them out. At the end of the day, randomizers don't exist to replace the vanilla game, but instead to exist alongside them. They can enhance your experience and re-spark a love for a game or a series that you might have lost.
Randomizers create meaningful variety. Even in a game you know well, when enemies and items are shuffled around, you're forced to approach that game in a brand new way. And because you'll find yourself in unfamiliar situations, you're guaranteed to learn a lot about games you love.
So how do you feel about randomizers? Do you have a favorite series that you just love to see a randomizer for? Let's chat about it in the comments. And again, a huge thanks to JupiterClimb for coming on and sharing his thoughts and opinions about randomizers. I highly recommend checking out his YouTube channel, where he uploads not only his speedruns of multiple games, but also gameplay of various randomizers and ROM hacks for numerous Castlevania, Bloodstained, and even Mega Man Zero games. His content is super entertaining, and you can even watch him live on Twitch as well. Links are all down in the description. I don't have a cool, funny, abrupt ending, not like I normally do. So, I guess I'll just say...